Jack Smith's Deposition, Part 20, January 6, 2021, and Pardons. Welcome to Law and Society. Please like, share, and subscribe. What I'm doing right now is reading you Jack Smith's deposition that was given in a closed-door deposition that happened in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And the reason why I'm doing it is because it is important for every American to remember that Donald Trump incited an insurrection on January 6, 2021 in an attempt to stop the counting of the electoral votes. And he also conspired to defraud the United States and the American people by trying to overturn a fair and free election. And it is our responsibility, every non-MAGA American's responsibility, to remember what happened on January 6th and not let Donald Trump rewrite history, not let his lackeys rewrite history. With that said, I'm going to read out the question and then Jack Smith's answer. This is the last episode of Jack Smith's depositions, so thank you so much for listening, and let's get this part finished and move forward. Question. I believe your report talks about rioters, the crowd that violently attacked the law enforcement officers attempting to secure the building, on page 25 of your report. One of those rioters was Daniel Rodriguez, who multiple times plunged a stun gun into the neck of Officer Michael Fanone, causing Officer Fanone to suffer a heart attack and sustain other injuries. Mr. Rodriguez was subsequently sentenced to 12 years in prison after a federal judge called him a, quote, one-man army of hate. Are you aware of President Trump pardoning Mr. Daniel Rodriguez? Smith, I am. Not him specifically, but my understanding is he pardoned all the people who violently assaulted police officers that day. Question. So in pardoning all the people who assaulted police officers that day, another example is Patrick McCaughey III, who used a stolen police riot shield to crush Officer Daniel Hodges in a metal door frame at the entrance of the lower West Terrace tunnel. And he left Officer Hodges trapped, bleeding, even crying for help from his fellow officers. Officer Hodges testified, if I was there much longer being assaulted in such a way, I knew that it was very likely I wouldn't be able to maintain my consciousness. Judge Trevor McFadden, who is a Trump appointee, described Mr. McCaughey as, quote, poster child of all that was dangerous and appalling about January 6th, stating that his actions were, quote, some of the most egregious crimes that were committed that day. And, quote, this man was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Are you aware that this person was one of those rioters who assaulted law enforcement that were pardoned by President Trump? Smith, again, I don't know his specific name, but I do know people like him who did things like he did were pardoned. And are you aware of more than 140 police officers who were injured by the pro-Trump mob on January 6th, sustaining injuries such as cracked ribs, traumatic brain injuries, smashed spinal discs, and heart attacks as rioters used bats, flagpoles, chemical sprays, stolen police shields, and batons to beat officers? Are you aware of those facts on that day? Smith, very much so. Question. Do you believe that pardoning individuals like this who committed crimes against law enforcement that day makes our country safer? It does not, in my view. Can you explain why, from your prosecutorial experience prosecuting gangs, prosecuting violent crimes, why pardoning individuals who committed violence on January 6th doesn't make our country safer? Smith, well, I don't think it's really my opinion. I think we've already seen some of the people who were pardoned go on to commit other serious crimes. And I don't have much doubt that in the coming months and years, we'll see more of that. People who would otherwise be incarcerated, communities protected from them, they're going to be out in communities. And in my view, we will continue, unfortunately, to see people who were pardoned for committing violence on January 6th continuing to commit additional crimes. That's my view. Question: were you aware that on November 10th, 2025, President Trump issued a second sweeping pardon proclamation granting full and complete unconditional pardons to at least 77 individuals related to efforts to overturn the 2020 election? Were you aware of the second pardon? Smith: I was. Question: some of these individuals that were pardoned, Mr. Giuliani, who we talked about earlier today, who was willingly, knowingly spreading false claims and worked to subvert the election of the 2020 election. Are you aware of that? Smith: yes. Question: I guess taking a step back and looking at the fact that President Trump pardoned these folks, these 77 individuals who were previously working to overturn the election, the 2020 election, what message does it send to folks living in the country, particularly as it relates to election integrity in the future? Smith: I just don't understand why he would pardon people who assaulted law enforcement. I think it sends lots of messages. One of the messages is to law enforcement. The people who defended the Capitol that day, in my view, are heroes. And I think pardoning people who assaulted them is wrong. So with that said, I come to the close of Jack Smith's depositions. I hope that you carry the word forward. I hope that you talk amongst each other, that you share information that is the truth about what happened on January 6th, and that we will never forget what Donald Trump did on January 6th, and we are never going to let anybody rewrite that history and revise that history of Donald Trump's assault on our constitutional republic. With that said, thank you for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.